right. Today is our testimonial service, and we got some men that will be coming and giving their testimony. But I want to open it up for anyone else before that. Anyone have a testimony or anything of thankfulness that you would like to share at this time? Anyone? Don't be shy. All right. All right. Well. All right. Yes, Stephen.
Year and a half we were able to go and visit with her family for Christmas and New Year's, and also that God allowed for us to spend a week in ministry there working in Ambalema, which is the town where we want to go to assist in the church planting. And that really just reinforced our desire to go there and just excited us once again for the ministry that we'll be doing there. So we're just really thankful for that opportunity, and also for the support that the church gives us financially and through all your prayers, especially through your prayers. So thank you so much for all of that.
Any others? Any others? Yes.
Well, good morning. Welcome. Welcome to Open Door Baptist. My name is Jim Morgan. I'm your missionary to Romania, and I'm going to be here this Wednesday, I believe. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. Wednesday, come and see what God is doing in Romania. And pictures and lots of things for you to see. But thank you for supporting me. Thank you for praying for me. Some individuals support me. The church as a whole supports me. So God bless you. Thank you for that. And keep doing the good work you're doing here.
Thank you. Yeah, Brother Jim will be speaking this Wednesday, so
Make sure you can be here then. Any others? Any others? All right. Well, let's all stand then. We're going to sing Count Your Many Blessings, named 151, page 495 in your hymnal. And after that, Brother Will will come up and give his testimony. Sing it out. And I'm not like those you are tempest tossed. When you are discouraged, thinking all is lost. Count your many blessings, name them one by one. And it multiplies you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Have you ever heard the load of care? Does it cost you heavy to run on to bed? Count your many blessings, every child will fly, and you will be singing as the days go by. Count your blessings, and one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. So what did conflict? So what did the conflict, whether great or small? Do not be discouraged, God is over all. Count your many blessings, angels will attend. Help and comfort give you through your journey's end. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Amen. You may be seated. And Brother Will, if you'll come at this time.
Hello, everybody. My name is Will. I'm very thankful for this church. My family is here in this church, so you're all are members of my family, and I'm very proud to be a part of this church and part of your lives. 10 years ago, I wanted to start dating. And I talked to my dad, and he told me, Will, it's the 21st century. Nobody dates. They all go online. They all meet people online. No one goes to a restaurant anymore. They just Facebook and they talk online. So I went and joined a Christian Mingle, which is a dating service, and I met Dana. And we dated for several years, and we decided to get married. And I moved here to Alabama. We got married, and I've been here with her. We've been married for 6 years now, or 6 years, right? Yeah. We just had an anniversary. Last year was our 5-year anniversary, and we were sitting around the house just watching a movie, and Jennifer emailed Dana and said happy anniversary, and we had forgotten it was our wedding anniversary. So each year it's a miracle we can remember it. But anyways, through that time I met Dana, and I was blessed with a new family that I never imagined. I had 2 kids. They were sweet, 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids, Madison and Blake, and we dated and we got married, and overnight they turned into teenagers. And if you've ever had the experience of raising teenagers, it is a different experience. And coming from never having any children in my life, the closest I had was some nephews and nieces that I could take them, get ice cream, feed them pizza, go to the movies, and get them all hyped up and then drop them off at their parents' house. I never had to deal with the other side of it. And so now I was thrust into this teenage life with these kids, these wonderful kids. They don't know this, but at the time, before I was dating Dana, I was praying to God, and I was asking for a family. I was very specific. I wanted a family with a boy and a girl. I wanted a Christian family that I could be part of, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find that. I didn't know if that was out. So I have a verse here I want to share with you. It's Matthew 6:33. It says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." And so I was at my church in Atlanta. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and in the Sunday school class, the pastor who was teaching that Sunday school class showed us that verse. And immediately it hit me. It said, okay, this is what you need to do. I was dating Dana. She had the 2 kids. I was not sure if we should get married, not sure if I should start my life. And I realized when I heard that verse that this was going to be my ministry. I was going to put God first in my life, and everything after that was going to be part of that service for God. And that was marrying Dana and being with these 2 kids. I prayed for a girl. I prayed for a boy. I prayed for Dana. I literally prayed for someone with dark curly hair and big brown eyes, and I got that. You know, God answered my prayers, and I'm so blessed and thankful for what he has done for me. Blake is now no longer the 11-year-old boy who had we were watching a Facebook video the other day, and Blake's voice was very girly, and it sounded just like his mother when he was talking on that Facebook video. Now he has a deep voice, and he has a beard, and he's about, like I said, he's 10 feet tall, 400 pounds, looks like a football player. And he challenges me on the Bible now. He challenges me. We have deep conversations about what's going on in the world, what's going on in politics, and he has grown up, and he is standing on his own 2 feet, and we are having these adult conversations, and I get to be part of his life and helping him understand what's going on out there in the world. Madison, sweet little girl, 10-year-old girl. First time I went to her house, she'd made me a taco, and it had chopped up tomatoes and cheese in it. The shell had been sitting out for a couple of days. But I ate it, and it was delicious because this little girl thought of me and made me this taco. And I always remember that meal she made me. And then, of course, years later, she's now a teenager, and I can't even get a hello out of her. But that's okay. That's okay. Because inside, I love her, okay? Inside, I love Blake. I have a love for them that I've never had for anybody else, really. And I'm so thankful for that they're in my lives. And as we grow together, I get to be part of their lives, and as they move on and have relations and siblings and grandchildren, I get to be a grandfather one day to Madison's child and to Blake's children, and I'm looking so forward to that because God has blessed me with that opportunity. None of this is on my works. My dad, who passed away very soon after he gave me that advice, never knew what door he had opened for me by encouraging me to go online. He never knew what was in store for me. But he knew that if I seek God first in my life, that all this stuff would happen. And everything that I have today is because I put God first in my life and my family. Many of you know I own a hot dog shop in Wetumpka. And yesterday we had a devastating event. A tornado came straight through the town. I have a young lady that works for me at the shop, and she was there yesterday. And I consider her a part of my family as well. Over the last 3 years, we talk a lot. And she doesn't have a mother or father, so we're able to... I feel like I'm able to mentor her a little bit. And she told me that she looked out the window and the sky was completely black and the power transformers were sparking and she saw that cone, and she climbed underneath this little counter I had that the register's on, and she waited for that tornado to pass. And luckily, it was about 150 feet, maybe 200 feet away from her across the bridge, and it wiped out the town. I mean, you go over there now, there's nothing there. And I pulled up to that shop. I did everything I could to get there, man. Every road was blocked. The trees were down. We were hustling. Dana was in the car with me, and I was scared. I was scared for her life because I tried to call her, and there's no answer because the phones are down. And of course, she has a cell phone that doesn't work, and so I'm trying to get a hold of her. I can't get a hold of her. I finally get over there, and she's standing at the door with a smile on her face because I showed up. I was there. I was there to comfort her, and she was relieved. And so as I walked into the door, we gave each other a big hug, and we're thankful that she was alive. And we joked a little bit. I always have a joke, I always try to make people laugh. And so we joked a little bit about it. But she, through this experience, realized that, life is pretty short. It could happen just like that. And as she was, I made her wash the dishes. I made her put the food away. I'm not a nice boss, but I let her do all that. And so as she's doing that, she's thinking, what just happened? And she came out and she talked to me, and she's like, I can't believe that I just lived through that. I can't believe that that's just happened. And so as a young little 18-year-old girl in high school, a senior in high school, experienced a life and death experience. Through that experience, if she puts God first in her life, everything else will be taken care of. Even if something horrible happened yesterday, she was serving God and she was doing what was right. And God will watch over her. And God did protect her. God protected her yesterday. She protected us. He was a wonderful God. And he just does so much for everybody. And I just want to share this experiences with me. The love I have for my wife and the children and the family. The love I have for all of you. You guys are all very special to me. And I'm thankful very much for it. So may God bless you all.
I know some people wonder, Carol Jean, did your place get hit? No, it didn't. Oh, that's. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were both meeting in other places.
Yeah, I heard that the Presbyterian Church was meeting at the theater there.
But because that church was so old, that was really devastating to the community. But our building was the oldest building on the east side of the river, and it was not touched. There was a class going on in there that had 15 students in there. And we stopped by there on the way this morning, and all 15, got in 2 little bathrooms. And they said they got to know more about each other than that. But they came through it, and they will be back in this morning to finish up.
Yeah, or there were, as far as they know, there was no fatalities, so that's
Right.
all right. Let's all stand, and we're going to sing this song. This reminds us of important to give a testimony, telling the world that we're a Christian. I'll tell the world that I'm a Christian, and I'm not ashamed to bear his name. Let's sing this song together. I'll tell the world that I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed, his name to bear. I'll tell the world that I'm a Christian. Turn back to our seats this time. Continue on with our testimonies. At this time, Brother Woody's going to come and give his testimony.
So my nickname is Woody. My first name was actually Andrew, so, or Andy, you know, until I hit the ripe age of 18 to join the military. No one called me Andrew, so it was Andy. So yeah, it works out. I'm married to Jessica, who is affectionately called Jessie. So we have the whole Toy Story vibe going on. But anyways, it's good to be with you. Let's see, Pastor and Matt asked if I would come up and share a testimony, so I said, hey, why not? Thought about a million things to say, and then I just tossed them all, and yeah, so we're just doing this impromptu. But I guess a cool thing about my life is the fact that God has always been there, and I didn't have any grand story of coming to find Christ. However, it was quite interesting. My parents, we grew up in the Catholic Church. So as a young man growing up in a Catholic church, it was very, I don't know if you've been there, done that, but a lot of stand up, sit down, kneel, you know, each Sunday, different things that you would have to do and participate in. But it was never really fit in that, you know, God-sized hole kind of in our family that we were searching for to fill. And eventually things kind of went from this family that was together to where it was starting to break apart, and fractures were forming. Got so bad, my mom ends up separating from my dad, and we break apart, and the family's kind of, falling by the wayside. Things like that, it's typically a slow fade. Nothing really big and significant breaks it. It just kind of starts chipping away over time. But the awesome thing is, God gave me a father that used that opportunity to clarify and look deep into his life, and he wasn't willing to quit and give up. So he came back, and it was so amazing. But our family ended up finding God at Evangelical Free Church, unlike the God that we found necessarily in the Catholic Church, and we grew. We shot up dramatically in that non-denominational Bible-based teaching church, right? And so it was pretty awesome to see us grow. We reconnected as a family. My mom was willing to accept my dad back into her life, and it was pretty profound. Great example. And so God gave me that. God has also led my family to Alabama, and I know I'm kind of fast forwarding a lot. I was actually saved when I was about 8. My mom, she's been the cornerstone of all cornerstones. I'm telling you, she has been that person that if I have a question, guidance, I mean, my dad's there. And my dad's always just shouldered the burden of life and what the family needed and soldiered it on. But my mom has been through it, y'all. She grew up in Chicago. 2 of my oldest brothers did not come from my father. They're adopted, pretty much blended family, but you wouldn't know it, we all grafted in quite tight, but my mom's been through a lot, and through that, adversity always introduces a man and woman with their true self. I always like to think of, anyways. You don't go through life, you tend to grow through life, and God uses that. And in my mom's life, she grew, and thank the Lord she did, because she's always been there for me. And as she's grown through life, she's been that cornerstone, and as I've grown through life, I've always leaned on her. I knew I needed to be in church. I joined the military. I grew up in Wisconsin, actually. I'm a Southern Yankee. So I grew up in Wisconsin, 18 years, left Wisconsin, joined the Air Force, and I've never returned to the North. It's crazy. But it's the happiest time of my life, too. So as soon as I got into the South, I think I realized what real living was all about, and it's been good. My parents even moved from Wisconsin down to Missouri, so we're loving the Southern lifestyle. But needless to say, the amazing thing is I guess what I'm trying to get at in a roundabout way is my mom's been my cornerstone. And it hasn't always been easy, but she's always been there. And for us getting to this church, it's a God thing. There's some things you look back at your life, and thank goodness we have hindsight, right? And we can look back at our lives, because when we look back, the things that contributed to get us here, you know it's meant to be. The military life, I probably went a decade or more without even being in a church, right? Reading some Bible studies, some good articles, reading the Bible, hit or miss, obviously. There's always a good excuse and laziness and internal fight and obstacles that keep you from truly embracing God's word and living your life in a way that is honorable and what I can sometimes hope to be more righteous than if I was not. However, through the grace of God, he's always been there. And so to get to Alabama, my mom, she kept telling me, you got to get to church. And then I got married. We got married 15 years ago. That's crazy, 15 years ago. So she actually, it's awesome. She married me. I got her before she got smart, I think, because I'm telling you, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I'm never going to claim to be. I always say, you know, she didn't marry me as the sharpest tool in the shed, so why would I try and sharpen myself now, you know? I'm going to stay dull as long as I can. I don't want her to leave. So anyway, but we got married. Travis, he's my son, came into his life. He's my stepson, but came into his life when he was 4. God blessed me, you know, just like he blessed my dad with, you know, some kids that he ended up adopting. But sorry if this is all over the place. But with Jess, we got together. My mom said, hey, you need to find a church. You need to get your life in order. You need to be a man. And I kind of ignored that, ignored it for a very long time. We ended up meeting in Arkansas. We went down to Texas, got stationed in Texas. We're like, we should find out this, find a church or something. And we looked around, didn't really find anything. Went out to Arizona, Southwest. If you've ever been out there and you like it, that's great. We are not desert dwellers by any means. We did not adapt too well to that lifestyle. We were there for about 3.5 years. But we were getting close to retirement and thinking, hey, where should we land? Where should we end this journey of the military, right? It was crazy, but we carved out a little spot, and Chattanooga ended up being like this perfect scenario of climate and job opportunity and travel. Anyways, what we were looking for. Well, out of the blue, a job pops up, and I end up getting it. It's at Maxwell Air Force Base. I'm like, where the heck is Maxwell Air Force Base? Sure enough, Alabama. So it's just a little ways from Chattanooga, as you know. And so now I'm involved with this Master Resilience Trainer program, which I help develop resilience trainers in the Air Force. And it's awesome because you get to like really impact those people searching for some truth and some ways to fill their cup a bit in life when they come back from dealing with a lot of adversity. But anyways, we show up, we come here. My mom's like, you got to find a church, you know, all these years. And we show up to Alabama. My mom does a Google search on free grace churches. She pulls up this map and sends me, like, you got 2. There's no excuse, get there. And I'm like, Mom, I know, I get it. I'm going to get there. So sure enough, we're moving in, trying to figure life out. Everything's green. That's a big difference just in itself. Anyway, but we're in Alabama, the humidity, we're moving in, we're just trying to go through life, get acquainted, figure out this new job, and we need windows for our house. We need windows. So we call up Weather Seal because it's a highly reputable company. I encourage you guys to go out and get some. But shout out, Matt. But anyways, we get windows, and this guy shows up to install our windows in the great community that, you know, here in Prattville. And he shows up, he starts talking, and sure enough, free grace, open door, this odd Baptist type folk come up, and he starts explaining. I'm like, this is weird. I think I got an email that my mom sent me with some churches. I don't remember. I didn't tell Matt that at first, I don't think, but I went back to look. I pull it up, and y'all, it's the exact same church as the one he, you know, goes to church, is installing my windows. And we bought this house blind. We didn't even know it needed windows, right? If we showed up and saw the windows in the shape they were, we might not even bought the house, right? But anyways, all I'm getting at is God is good. we've been going through life together. There's so much more to the story. I'm not trying to take up too much time, but God's good. Today is good. There was a big storm yesterday, but you know what? Every storm cloud runs out of rain. It's just a fact of life. So I got a lot to be thankful for. Beautiful church family. We're here with purpose, intentionally to be with y'all. This has been a great home, and you've accepted me, my family, our little girl, and I really thank you guys for that, because it's a rarity, you know. It's something you don't run across too very often. So anyways, I don't know what you get out of this story other than the fact that my takeaway is trust God and just, you know, don't limit him. Get out of the way and quit trying. I would say that a lot of the things that kept me from really connecting throughout the years, and luckily he gave me all those years to finally get to this point in Alabama, but was I always had this preconceived notion of what I thought I needed to do and where I need to be and when and how. And you know what? At the end of the day, trust God, get out of his way, and don't limit him, you know? And I think that is pretty powerful in itself, because most of the burdens we put on our backs, we're not necessarily intended to carry. So anyways, that's all I got, really. So I hope that works. Matt, does that work? Okay, so good. Thanks.
I like that. Trust God, get out of his way, and don't limit him. Good job. All right. Right now we take our offering, so if our ushers come at this time. Any announcements? I do know night growth groups, and next Sunday we'll have Scott Saxton here, so make sure you're here for that. Men's breakfast is this Saturday at 9 a.m., so see Oscar for any information you might need for that. Any other announcements? Yes, sir.
Sign up sheet for the men's breakfast is out on the table.
Okay.
If you want to sign up, please do so, and then we can get a proper minute down.
Okay. All right. So sign up sheets up there. Yes, sir. Oh, backwards night. All right. Wear your clothing backwards. All right. Okay. Any others? All right. If you'll, Brother Mike, ask the Lord's blessing.
Lord God, we are grateful and thankful, God, that you love us, Lord. We're grateful that you don't take everything, but you give us everything with an opportunity to give back. So, God, we ask you to just bless this offering that you have allowed us to give. God, that use it just to glorify you, your own name. In the name of Christ, we ask. Amen.
Let's all stand and we're going to sing. Let's sing that, all three verses of page 7. On the mount of every blessing, to
sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, offer songs of proudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnets, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the love God fixed upon it, out of thy redeeming love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither lie I held my crown, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to the heart at home. Jesus saw me with a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He to rescue me from danger, interposed his precious blood. Now let's go to praise together. Oh, to praise how great thy heaven, daily I constrain to thee. Let thy goodness like a feather, I'm my wandering heart to thee. Come to honor, Lord, I feel it. Come to live the God I love. Here's my heart, take and seal it. Seal it, Lord, I am you may be seated. All right, today Brother Austin couldn't be here with us, but he did put together a video for us, so we're going to watch that at this time.
Hello everyone. Most of you know me already, but for those of you who don't, my name is Oscar. I was asked by Pastor to give my testimony today. Unfortunately, due to work, I can't be here today. So this is the best I can do. And, I'm going to divide it in 3 different sections. The first section is going to be my salvation, how that happened. Then I'm going to go into a little bit of my life before my salvation, and I'm going to end with my return after being away from God. So I was saved when I was 14 years old. I was invited to go to this youth camp by the Baptist church I was a part of when I was growing up back in Mexico. I was not going to this youth camp with the intent of learning more about the Bible or anything like that. I was just going there to to have fun and get distracted, get out of the house. But of course God had different plans for me, and God spoke to me. I have to say that the preaching, it was very misleading information. It was biblical, but it was all very misleading information. We were not given the gospel, all the salvation plan or anything like that during this camp, but that didn't matter because God spoke to me directly. He had plans of saving me, and he did, and my life was just different from that point on. I was not the same person. It was day and night from my previous life to thereafter. And you might say, well, you were 14 years old, so how horrible can your life be at that age? And well, that's partially true. I'll get into more details in a little bit. Coming back to my salvation date, from that point on, I just could not put the Bible down. I had to carry that Bible with me all the time. I could not stop praying to God every day, all day. I felt a strong desire to see everyone I knew, everyone around me saved, and I didn't know what to do to help them see the truth, help them believe in God, and I wanted God to do miracles so they can believe. And I will pray to God and say, just show them something so they can believe. Of course, that didn't happen because God has shown us everything we need now to believe. He speaks to us in a different way. I continue my life just praying and reading the Bible and a lot more. A few other youth that went to this camp were saved as well. I don't know if they were saved that night or they were saved before, but something happened to them that same day, just like it happened to me. They were very committed to preaching the gospel and praying. So we formed this group of youth to pray and get together and read the Bible and study and everything like that. About a year later, my dad decided that we're going to move to the States. So we did. You know, it was just my dad and I. And then my mom and my two sisters follow us later. Before I continue the story on this direction, let me back up a little bit. And let me go back to my life before I was saved. Before I was saved, so up to 14 years old, I grew up in a very divided home. My dad was and still is an atheist. He just doesn't want to believe. And my mother, she is a Christian. My dad was not a villain on this story, but he's just trapped in sin, just like all of us were at some point, and he does not believe. So his actions and his all his behavior and everything he did was from someone who's not saved. And my mother, well, she, being a Christian, she didn't want to participate on parties with drinking and beer and all that. And my dad was not an alcoholic by any means, but that was part of his life. So my mother didn't want to participate in any of that, so she decided not to go with him to Christmas parties and family events and things like that, because my dad's family, well, they're not saved. And so they were separated in that aspect, and they never did anything together as far as I can tell. I mean, we did a few things like family trips and stuff like that, but nothing major. I mean, and the day-to-day was, well, she did her thing and my dad did his thing. And I think part of that, because of that, my mother didn't give us a time to read the Bible at home or pray or anything like that. That was not something we did at home. So I saw it very separated from home. The whole church thing, that was at church, and then home was home and school was school. Everything was little islands of different things and different behavior everywhere, and I didn't like that. That wasn't me. I didn't want to be a participant of that. I didn't want to do or deal with anything like that. So I pushed myself away and away from the church. And this is before I was saved. As a matter of fact, I was saved like 6-7 times while growing up in a Baptist church, because in Sunday school, the old teachers, they will be like, "Who wants to be saved?" And you know, all the kids will raise their hand, and I was one of them too. So I pushed myself away from all this. I didn't want to be part of any of this. So I started listening to heavy metal music. I started doing things that are not correct. Drinking and smoking, that became, that was part of my life before I was even a teenager. So I did a lot of things that I regret, and I wish I'd never done them. Years later, I was saved, 14 years old, and about a year after that, my parents decided to move to the States. So at this point, I am in this little town in Washington State. The name of the town is Yelm. It's a very small town, even smaller than Prattville. I continue my reading of the Bible and continue my praying. my devotional time. I continued doing all that without any community or social support from anyone because, well, just because I didn't know anyone there. I was not going to any church. I was not, I didn't have any friends that were believers. I didn't have anything with me that will support my beliefs. So little by little, I started drifting away from God. I started allowing sin in my life, and one sin after another, they just wrapped me, and I was trapped. So I just let it get to me, and I allow sin, and through all this time, God was speaking to me. He was speaking to my heart. He was calling me back, and as time went on, I learned to ignore that voice. I still hear it. I still feel God calling me, and I still feel His presence on my life, but I learned to ignore it. Smoking and drinking came back. Drugs too. I was not an abuser by any means, but I was doing things that I was putting myself in situations that I just don't understand how come I'm still here. I'm still alive. God, I believe it was God that got me out of those situations. It was God who kept my life for a reason. And it was rough. Just had a rough life. But throughout all those years, God was still calling me, and I knew from the bottom of my heart that if something was to happen to me, I was gonna go to heaven. I knew I was saved. I knew God was in me. I knew that I was a son of God because He gave me that gift. He saved me. And even though I was separated, I just never doubted my salvation. And this feeling of guilt just grew and grew in my heart, just knowing that if I die, I'm gonna go to heaven, and what am I going to say? What am I going to say to God? Sorry, I was just enjoying life and I just forgot about you, but here I am now. I mean, do I want to do that? No, I don't want to do that. I want to show up there, and I want to say that I tried. I want to say that I did my best. I want to say that I read the Bible and I followed commandments as best as I could. And so I ended up going back to Mexico back in 2011 because when I was done with college, guess what? I didn't have a job. And nobody will give me a job because I didn't have an experience. So I decided to take a break and go vacation to my hometown. So I did. And I visited my parents and kind of stayed there for a week, and then 2 weeks, and then a month, and then another month, and next thing I know, I'm there for 3.5 years. But during that time, I met Anna, and before I met her, God was calling me even louder and louder. Well, I should rather say He was still calling me the same, and I was just allowing His voice to resonate in my head and in my heart even louder and louder than I did before. And this is to His glory, not mine, because He's the one who persisted and I was just ignoring Him. And then someday I say, yeah, I can't keep ignoring God. So I listen and I allow Him to take over my life again. And but I was so in depth in this life away from God, doing all these things that I should not have done any of them, but I did. And when I started dating Anna, she there was something about her. She just brought me peace, and nothing of this world was needed anymore. She reminded me of the love of God. She reminded me that life is much better than what you think, and I believe God sent her in my life so I can come back, and she was used by God, and maybe she doesn't know how, but I'm sure He did. And as time went on, I quit doing things that that I was just doing. Like smoking stopped from one day to another. So did the drinking too. That was from one day to another. I just stopped it. And it was not me, of course. That was God helping me, giving me strength. I was just allowing Him to work in my life. So, first daughter is born, Aurora. She is a few months old, and this war began in my hometown. This war against drug dealers, and that was never there before, and that was new to all of us. So when that began, that was rough. You can hear the AK-47s every night. You fall asleep with the sounds of these gunshots. You wake up in the morning and you see bullet holes in your neighbor's house that were not there the day before. You see car chases, shooting at each other on the street in the middle of the day. You see bodies on the streets just laying in cover because they were killed. It's a very undesirable situation, and it's a situation that I don't wish to go back to, and I don't wish anybody have to be in that position. So I told Anna we can go to the States. Seeing all that, the decision was very easy for her to put everything behind, her family and her city and everything she knew, put it behind so we can go somewhere when we can have a better, safer life. So we did. We moved to Washington State. That was January 2015. At this point, God still calling me, and a few months later, we find our first church as a family, and we start going there, and then from that point on, I was convicted in my heart to start going door knocking and witnessing to people. My old church, they used to do this organized visitations, just like what we do here with the GO program. So I started doing that, and I also participated in other things, and I'm trying to do what God is asking me to do, which is go and talk to people about Him, and try to have people believe. And it's only so much we can do, and that's all God is asking us to do. The work of making people believe, it's on them and God. We are just the channel to let them know that God is calling them. So that's what I do now. I try to witness to people. I witness to my family. Some of them are Jehovah's Witnesses, and I talk to them about God and salvation. And I'm still talking to my dad about believing. And if you have any questions as far as more details on my life or my testimony, just come and find me. I'll be happy to let you know more. But I hope this was useful for you, and I pray that God bless each one of you, and I pray that you can do what God has calling you to do. Thank you.